Welcome back, friends. Last Craft here. Time for another Great Ace Attorney voice LP for these Chronicles. We're nearly finished with this game, but we're not there yet. So here we go. The Autopsy of Clint Von Zieks. Let's see how my voices do. It's been a while. From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange. Yeah, considering why wouldn't he kill with his Eastern sword? There were no other signs of internal injury. Nothing questionable at all. It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant. No indication? Nothing to suggest fabrication? Professor Mikotoba, are you certain about that? Well, nothing that I could positively identify as such, much less swear into testimony. Well, that clears things up nicely. The only fabrication here, Sogi, has come from you. What? You claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is a fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged it. I swear he did. Freely? With the tip of a sword at his throat? The man was clearly at his wit's end. Huh. The court will give no credence to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Clint Von Zieks' death. And with this testimony we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of the matter. If I may, my lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon. Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of the professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats. Oh, such horrifying crimes. But curiously, the killer's last victim, Clint Von Zieks, suffered a different fate. Yes, you're right. He was stabbed through the heart with a sword. That's enough. I believe I warned you about this, witness. I promised to curtail your testimony as soon as it entered the realms of supposition or speculation. Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during the cross-examination. What? I have the right to cross-examine every witness after testimony. And I fully intend to exercise that right. Ryunosuke, I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of the law, as I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree. Very well. You may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution. Yes, my lord. Oh, balls. Cross-examination. Alright, let's do some of this. Someone's gonna have something to press. I mean, not press, but, excuse me. You couldn't say. No, sadly not. But then you couldn't say there wasn't an indication either, could you? No, true, I couldn't. I was at Dr. Wilson's side as he performed the procedure, recording what he did. But at times, of course, he instructed me to fetch implements and such like. Whilst I was away from the operating table, obviously I could have missed something. And at those times, what was his secondary assistant doing?
following this Japanese man's orders to adjust the lighting or pass some implements. But that doesn't mean Mama wasn't a vital part of the team.
Quite, yes. So would you kindly refrain from staring at my cheek like that? Professor Mikotoba, think. Was there nothing at all that seemed out of place to you? Well, yes, there was, a matter of fact. Hold it! In all the previous 4 killings attributed to the Professor, the victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were, well, mauled? Correct. And yet Lord von Zeeks was stabbed. Ah, do you mean to say... You think Lord Clint von Zeeks may not in fact have been one of the Professor's victims? There's no basis on which to doubt the findings of the investigations carried out at the time. But Genshin Asugi confessed all of his crimes upon his arrest. He admitted to having taken the lives of all 5 members of the aristocracy. Ugh. Yet the beast that was used to carry out the killings was never identified. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin had ever kept a dog. A true hound of hell. Hold it! But, you weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, were you, Dr. Gory?
Does that matter?
Well, I just wonder how useful your testimony can be in that case, really. I mean, it would be different if your mother, Dr. Scythe, were in the stand, but...
I've read all the paperwork about the case, and Mom has told me the story countless times. The statement I just made is exactly what's written in the autopsy report.
I really gotta learn to talk like that without the thing. I did confirm that myself at the time, it's true. Besides the stab wound, there were no other signs of internal trauma.
I see. Mama told me all about it.
Oh. Oh?
She said there was nothing of note internally. But they did find an amazing piece of evidence. Something unbelievable.
Unbelievable? What do you mean? Come on, Dr. Gory. What was it? Hold it! What exactly was it, though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean?
Well, it was sparkly and round with a hole. As if it might slip over a finger, perhaps.
It was a ring belonging to Genshin Asugi. Oh! My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach? At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the digitus quartus of his left hand, the 4th ring finger. I'd understood it was some sort of keepsake. When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old. And I remember that ring. You do? My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not. It was a key piece of evidence. It remains under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check in for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger where it had been pulled off. They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes. How could they?
I brought the ring along with me today.
What? What?
Here it is, a bit dusty from years in the stores.
Good gracious, yes, that's it. I haven't seen that in 10 long years. And that was found inside the victim's stomach? Yes, I'm afraid so. You hesitate there, Professor Mikitoba. Should we read something into that? Well, it's just that thinking back now, I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body.
Oh my, really?
At that precise moment, Dr. Wilson had asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see. Dr. Gory, the removal of the historic evidence from the stores requires my consent, does it not? Mask on. However it came to be here, the court cannot deny that this is crucial evidence for today's proceedings. Yeah, this is not how it actually works when it comes to law. There needs to be paperwork and everything. Very well, you may submit it. Mr. Sogi's ring has been entered into the court record. It's not the sort of ring normally seen in Japan. They almost look like claws protecting that jewel.
You must examine it carefully, Miss Naruhodo. Very carefully indeed.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a look. Present. Take a look. Well, go back a second. Green blonde get to the Sogi found and look clear on Zeke's stomach during the claws clasping the gem looks sharp enough to cause a very nasty scratch. Alright. I guess the only thing to look at is the jewel. These fat claws are doing a good job protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of this ring.
Yes, if you were clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them. I should think.
Ow! Now my finger's bleeding. The claws really are sharp.
Oh my. That was very quick clumsiness, Miss Naruhodo, even for you.
Who would make such a dangerous ring? You can swallow it without doing yourself some fairly serious damage, surely.
A sticky mochi bun of about the size would go down much better, with some red bean paste in the middle.
Someone as clumsy as me would probably manage to choke on it somehow. So basically what they're finding is this ring is impossible to swallow. And yet somehow Clint was able to do it. And I guess if you are being murdered, you gotta try to force this down to be used as evidence, but like, what possessed, of course, I almost said Gumshoe. I almost said Lestrade. Whatever his name was, what possessed him to want to do the autopsy? He was very adamant about it, and I guess he was put up to do it and everything. So, alright. Let's go press.
Hold it!
And that was their decisive piece of evidence that led to Genshin Asogi's arrest?
Correct.
After further investigations by Scotland Yard, the man admitted to his crimes. That's a lie. My father was no killer. Eric von Zeeks, it was you. You twisted the truth to suit your purposes.
Your hatred of me doesn't change the facts that were established 10 years ago.
Huh.
My brother Clint had closed in on the professor. In the end, he exposed the man and put a stop to his lethal rampage. In the way only a man of my brother's caliber could.
That's everything, is it?
Poor father. He looks so troubled.
Perhaps because 10 years ago, something happened that's been weighing on his mind.
Oh.
I couldn't say, were his words. That phrasing was very deliberate, I'm sure.
I wonder if he's had his suspicions all these years.
If that's the case, we need to use this cross-examination to prove what really happened. And remove any trace of doubt.
If we could establish that Kazuma-sama's claim of fabricated evidence was true,
we can't shy away from this now. Even if what we might uncover could lead to total calamity.
Don't worry, Miss Naruhodo. I'll be right beside you, whatever may happen.
Alright.
There it is. No signs of internal injury. That might be where the ring goes. It either goes here or over the fat lack of damage, because it would totally damage his organs. I believe we may put it here or in the 5th spot. Let's put it here for now. Essentially, it would be impossible to swallow, is what they're saying, because it should damage the esophagus.
Objection!
Yep, goes here. No internal damage. The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach. But you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotoba? That's right. As I said in my testimony before. At that moment, I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson had requested. In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, Counsel? That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It's entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy. What are you saying? That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it there and then in the victim's stomach.
Objection!
Supposition at best. Supposition at best. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim? This evidence, right here. That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in that report, Counsel. Other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point. That's the point. You've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all. What? To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. In addition to its size, there are the sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with. My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice. But if he really had swallowed that enormous ring, it's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma. No. And there you've arrived at the sticking point. That's precisely why I had my doubts about the findings myself 10 years ago. Then why didn't you say something at the time? I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day. Look at this! Now this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikotoba? Well, if he swallowed a ring of that size with those sharp metal claws that it has, surely you'd expect to see damage to the throat and esophagus. Oh, esophagus? What the hell? Torn mucous membranes at the very least. Dr. Mikotoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you? I'm terribly sorry. I can think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries would be seen. Now, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down. Yeah, leads to the question of why didn't they damage the esophagus then, alright? Okay. So I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. I'm disappointed, Counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science and autopsy work. There's no scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified even in living subjects.
using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay.
I don't think so. And Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished.
We open up the dead to find the truth.
Huh? I beg your pardon?
But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up, with all her secrets inside. That's wrong.
Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama. Where does he get this wine? Break. Yes, the ring. What about the ring?
I've just remembered something. An early incident.
What incident?
The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have. Of Genshin Asogi saving my life.
What? My father saved your life?
It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden...
Don't make a peep, you're coming with us. There's the ring right there.
All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Bang! The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring.
Are you saying?
I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all.
Wait, what?
Genshin Asogi was arrested 2 days after that attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found.
You mean the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night?
Objection!
Why is he objecting? You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved?
What do you mean by that?
It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer and have him arrested. Kazuma! Open your eyes. Ryunosuke. You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it. Huh? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the findings in his trial? Oh. In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Von Zeeks? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate. But then... Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then... that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence. An obvious conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Genshin Asogi's silence at his hearing can only mean one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. But if that autopsy was all above board, there would be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion.
Objection!
Okay, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, this trial may very well have ended prematurely. Kazuma? What's this latest absurdity, Counsel? My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole. I beg your pardon? You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. But there's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death? If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
Oh, those results were an invention. No. Oh, those results were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that 2 people with a connection to that autopsy have been assassinated? If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion these 10 years. Me? Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Miss Narahiro. If we can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in this trial, a reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps? Enough rhetoric. The court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court? Why are we presenting it when he's been talking this whole time? The Asogi papers. Take a look. Can I present a bunny? Okay. I assume it's the Asogi papers, but I don't know why it's the Asogi papers. Alright, Nadahodo, I need you to figure this out for me, because I don't know. Present the Asogi papers. Then let's go down the line real quick. Armband. Red-Headed League. Photo. Introduction. Dismissal papers. Red hairpiece, police figure, revolver, framed photo, color album, Gregson photo, autopsy report. I've seen since autopsy, okay, woman, passport, the sword Karuma. I don't know. Okay, let's just, papers.
Take that!
This is the defense's answer to that question. Yeah, I'm wrong. As I indicated before, my patience for rhetoric is growing thin. You could have at least accompanied that penalty with an explanation for why that answer was wrong. If Kazuma-sama's father knew that the evidence being used to convict him was fabricated, why would he have said nothing in his trial? If it were me, I'd have protested my innocence until I was blue in the face. So if we're right about the autopsy results, there must have been a strong reason for his silence. Well then, perhaps he was saying nothing in exchange for some sort of clemency? Ah, that could be it! My lord, the Dems would like to... Enough rhetoric. Okay, here we go again. What else could it be? There it is. It's true that Genshin Isogi's silence during his trial resulted in his conviction. But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Isogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, that sort of clandestine agreement in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet. I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Isogi can be explained in no other way. Order! Order! First fabricated evidence and now a jailbreak conspiracy? Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses? People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Ah! Governor Caden and the poor chief warder of the prison. I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce. To summon the governor of the prison after all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What? Father? They already brought them? My dear friend may appear a little rattle-pated at times, but I can assure you he's extremely thorough. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency. Mr. Sholmes did that? Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm much mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment. Oh damn, Sholmes! My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Very well. Bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this business to rest once and for all. Oh my god, to be continued? Are they just gonna come up right now? Here we go. Caden, Vigil, and he's still up there? Oh, what voice did I give that guy? Good thing we're gonna take a break here. I'm gonna go listen to my old episode. We're gonna stop when we get to them, I guess. Would the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please? Hey, Betty Cadden, Governor of Berkeley Prison. Okay, that's the voice room. Okay. Vigil's one I need to look up. I think it's Crestfallen Sad, but I don't remember what the voice was doing that. I gotta go back and hear that one. Well, that's it. We're gonna stop right there. Perfect spot to stop. Next time we'll continue from here, and we'll go forward from there. Man, how much more is this gonna happen to this case? At this point, Strongheart is the bad guy we're trying to pin. The problem is pinning him down. And question, why is it always freaking this big guy, right? Like, obviously from Phoenix 1, you had the chief. And now we're doing another chief. I guess that's supposed to be the parallel. But that's it for now. I had fun. Hope you have fun watching. That's what's all about it. Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.